Good evening to all of you, Mr. Mekin, Maheshwari, and all of you have joined in this evening. Just a brief few words of introduction to Mr. Mekin Maheshwari. He's a director of Udyam Financial Services, and he is a founder of it as well. And he had earlier founded the Udyam Learning Foundation, whose objective is to make India entrepreneurial. He's actually started this at the school level, and the programs he has put in place are in operation in about 10 states in the country now. Mekin, correct me if I'm wrong, okay, anyway. Mr. Maheshwari possesses more than 18 years of experience in multidisciplinary business functions and is a former top executive of Flipkart. He began his career as the ad systems engineer in 2002, and he, went on to take the post of the senior developer for the mobile-based platform of the company in India, and was involved in designing the entire platform for supporting SMS-based applications. That was in 2005. In 2006, he joined Eugenie as a search and catalog developer and played very important and central roles in the company, doing a variety of front-ranking things. He was the director of engineering there in 2008, where he guided a large team of 12 engineers in the company's product development. In 2009, he joined Flipkart as the head of engineering and built the company's engineering team for its digital operations. At Flipkart, he was also the head of PayZippy and eBooks and led the product development, technology, business development, and operations team at the company. He left Flipkart in 2016, and he's a person who's extremely passionate about discovering and unleashing the human potential and micro-entrepreneurship. In 2017, he started the Udyam Learning Foundation, a non-profit which works on developing entrepreneurial mindsets amongst youth from different backgrounds. And many of the persons he has actually trained in different institutions are today, entrepreneurs in their own right. He also founded Udyam.org, a digital platform that nurtures grassroots level entrepreneurs with their business growth. He's an angel investor in some of India's leading startups, such as Urban Clap, TapChief, CrediWatch, Creo.do, Quitsits, etc. His entrepreneurial drive led him to co-found Global Alliance for Mass Entrepreneurship, where he has been mentoring local entrepreneurs with their strategies and resource utilization. And today he's also extremely busy with the Udyam Financial Services, where they're stretching out to the not so well-to-do sections of society to lend them a helping hand to do better or much better in their businesses. So thank you very much, Mekin, for making the time for us this evening. It's a real pleasure to have you with us. And unless us academics who sort of work from our tables, he's actually on the ground doing things, developing entrepreneurial skills among the youth of the country and also those who are not so young. So may I invite you, Mekin, to make your presentations and open it up for discussions as well. Thanks very much, Mekin.
Thank you, Professor Dhruba Saikia. It's a privilege to be presenting to all of you. That was a very long and very kind introduction. I am new to education myself, so I've been in education only for the last 7.5, 8 years. As my introduction said, I was mostly a technologist and working in the corporate world before that. So yeah, please treat these as things that we found on our way in mostly learning by doing, while we do connect with research that we have seen both globally and in India. In this presentation, I'm going to be focusing a lot on building entrepreneurial mindsets and its connection with the national education policy. I'll quickly introduce a little bit about entrepreneurial mindsets, but lay it in context of India, right? And why the need for entrepreneurial mindsets first, what are entrepreneurial mindsets, and then the connection with the national education policy. If any of you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. And we'll try and wrap this, wrap this quickly, but make this interactive too. Thank you. Okay. I think as I started learning about the Indian education system, I thought a few things stood out. One, last 25 years, we saw a huge success in getting kids into school. So we have a system which has almost 25 crore children enrolled in 15 lakh schools, and over a half of them go to government schools. We've also been very successful in creating a fantastic selection system. So our top 2% do really well globally, right? The global CEOs, deans of big companies, big universities have come through the Indian education system. So these two are the highlights of the Indian education system. And yet academic learning levels at scale for most people remain extremely poor. The annual status of education report has been telling us since 2005 that almost 57% of fifth grade students are unable to do second grade math and language. In the only year that we participated in PISA, which is a global assessment, we stood second from the bottom. Our college gross enrollment ratio is at 27%. So only 27% kids go to school, get to study in college. The rest drop off, right? About approximately 30% leaving after 10th and 12th. So these are some of both the positives and the negatives of the Indian education system. But our challenges are not just limited to education. As a developing economy, we have a much larger challenge with job creation. Our demographic dividend meter is on, but like unemployment is a large issue. About over 1 crore Indian youth turn 18 every year and will do so for the next 18 years. They're already born, they will grow. But almost 1/3 are not working, not studying, and not under training. Good jobs are extremely few, right? Between 2014 and 22, there were 22 crore applicants for government jobs, which is a large aspiration for our youth. But only 7,23,000 got those jobs. The private sector formal jobs growth data is highly debated, but I think what is not is that only less than 10% of our workforce is in formal jobs. So good quality formal jobs with good pay, with social security is limited only to 10% of our workforce. Azim Premji University put that research number at 93% being in informal jobs. And our skilling efforts have not scaled. PASA recently found that only 5.5% of our youth are enrolled in vocational learning. So this combination of education and employment context is the basis of what led me to start Udyam about 7 years back, right? That if youth can be equipped with an entrepreneurial mindset and they operate with more agency, they will hopefully go on and not just be entrepreneurs and create jobs, but also be more entrepreneurial. And that's what we do. In this presentation, I'll talk a little more about Udyam Shiksha, our work in schools and ITIs. But we also work in Udyam Vyapar, where we work with small business entrepreneurs, street vendors, and rural entrepreneurs to help them grow. What do we mean by entrepreneurial mindsets? We mean these 4 mindsets of trying new things, which is experimentation. Like I'm curious and I can take risks. I'm okay to fail, learn from it, and try again, right? That's what the mindset of trying new things means. I'm gritty. I can persist towards a goal despite setbacks. I can make my own informed decision and not just obediently follow others or do what others peers are doing. And finally, self-awareness, which is I'm aware of my strengths and areas of development. Along with these, we focus on the 4 C's or 21st century skills of creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. We think of these as the learning outcomes, and our focus on mindsets is coming from a belief that these mindsets can be lifelong building blocks. That once you become gritty, once you become independent, you will stay independent, hopefully, for your life. And this is not a mindset that will be short-lived. Unlike a lot of hard skills, for example, like once we have self-driving cars, the hard skill of driving a car may not actually be as valued. So these mindsets hopefully will hold young people in a good stead in what they do in life. The way we build these mindsets is through a pedagogical approach of enabling hands-on real-world learning. So we use experiential learning with real world action, a key driver of our pedagogy is the idea of autonomy. Can learners have agency and autonomy over learning choices? This is not something that we often see in our education system. A learner is never asked for their opinion of what they want to do, of how they want to learn, of when they want to get assessed. The system decides most things for the learner. So that's something that we hope that with them having choice, one, their motivation levels are a lot higher, but also they feel responsible for the choices that they make, and hence get better prepared for the real world where you do have to make choices and face consequences of them. We focus on a learning style that's collaborative. So doing work together and work towards a, a goal-based and a problem-solving approach, which is best captured in the idea of project-based learning. Like these, in some sense, capture what we are trying to do. And the environment we create for this learning is a nurturing and enabling environment, and not a selection-focused or rather a rejection-focused environment. We feel that's important for learners to feel equipped and thrive. This is a quick summary of the kind of curricula and curriculum focus that we have between grades 9 to 12. So that's where we work in terms of curricula. At a theme level in 9th grade, getting young people to solve problems around them in schools and communities. In the 10th grade, for them to pursue an area of interest and slowly have some discovery around what might in future interest them. In grade 11, building a scalable business project. So just like you would do a history or a geography project, students doing a business project is a grade 11 focus. And grade 12 to focus a little more on career and think about their transitioning to life after school. The learning skills that we focus on are mentioned on the right. I will not go through them in detail. I will share these slides with you for you to be able to go through them. Our offering can be seen to be of two work streams. One is the curriculum, the entrepreneurship mindset curriculum that I just talked about, which is at a minimum 25 to 30 hours of hands-on work of in-class learning, along with 5 to 8 hours of real-world doing outside the classroom. It places a very strong focus on working in groups and encourages young people to communicate a lot more. So doing work together and then presenting that work and reflecting are three key pillars of what happens in the classroom. The second key piece is students doing business projects. This might feel audacious, but the practice of actually getting out of comfort zone in the real world, students doing real projects, often with the support of seed money or a small financial nudge of 2,000 rupees per student, makes this a very real life experience and an exciting one. Like there is a lot of energy and enthusiasm in young people as they get to work on their own ideas. And this leads to significant building of the mindsets that I initially talked about. Like here is an example of our program in Delhi, started in 2019 for students of grades 9 to 12. This is a curriculum that's facilitated 30 to 40 minutes first period every day for all students of 9 to 12. The focus is on mindsets. There is no exams. There are no books. There is a facilitator manual which allows the teacher to act as a facilitator of learning. 11th and 12th standard students get the 2,000 rupees nudge for doing business projects. More than 21,000 teachers actually have been trained to run this program. And overall, since the program started, 17 lakh students have gone through this experience. We've also, in states where we have struggled to find teachers, and there is a shortage of teachers, we have tried experimenting and found an innovation with student-led models, hence enabling significant amount of peer learning. specifically in Kerala, in ITIs, we've experimented with this program where there were 4 student facilitators per class to try and run this program. And I think you see some of the outcomes listed on the right-hand side. This is our current footprint. We've worked in about 10 states, like Professor Saikia mentioned. We continue to have deep partnerships with a bunch of these states like Delhi, Punjab, Uttarakhand, and Andhra Pradesh, where we work or our work is there in almost in all government schools. In some other states like in MP and Telangana, we have just gotten started. So we are at much smaller scale, as you can see on the slide. In Maharashtra, Kerala, and Haryana, we work in the ITI system, while in the rest of the states, we work in the government school system. What we are doing, as it might seem new in the Indian context, but from a global precedence and research point of view, there is a lot of precedence for this kind of work. OECD's Future of Education 2030 report talked about critical importance of higher order skills such as problem solving, critical thinking, goal setting, decision making, and having a positive attitude, and specifically talked about project-based learning with entrepreneurial mindsets being a key focus. There is this McKinsey report that also talks about student mindsets being an important driver of student performance, both during education, but also more importantly, after education. Nobel laureate Edmund Phelps has 2 books, Mass Flourishing and Dynamism, both of which talk deeply about how important it is to build this high level of creativity and innovation at an early age. Albert Bandura, who by many is talked about as the top 5 psychologists of all times. He's the 4th most cited psychologist. He talked about the idea of self-efficacy. And we've used those principles of self-efficacy in designing our curriculum and program. There is this organization, Experience Educate, that has worked for over 1.6 lakh students doing very similar work as we do. They work in Africa. And there is a much larger nonprofit called Junior Achievement, which has been working for almost 100 years to create this business project-like experiences for 100 million plus students, so about 10 crore plus students across 100 countries. As in their alumni are some of these big leaders who you may have heard of. Steve Case, who was the founder of AOL, or the founder of Domino's Pizza, came or had experienced the Junior Achievement Program in their schooling system. There is the National Foundation for Teaching Entrepreneurship in the US, which is a 30-year-old organization, which is trained as in thousands of teachers and more than 1 million young people to build this entrepreneurial mindset. All of these are examples of what has existed globally. And what Udyam is trying to do is to take those, adapt them to the Indian context, and make these learning experiences accessible and possible for youth in India. I'll quickly shift to how does all of this align with what NEP 2020 talks about, right? And this is just a high-level summary, but we'll get into actual details of where and how NEP references things that are deeply aligned with the work that we do. So again, like I said, I will share this presentation, and this will be available for all of you to be able to use. But there is emphasis in NEP about restructuring school curriculum and pedagogy to make the learning a lot more activity-based and doing-based, to make holistic, integrated, enjoyable, and engaging, which are all key principles of the kind of work that we do. There is emphasis in NEP again on experiential learning for each subject, on critical thinking, and much greater attention to life aspiration and flexibility of choice for students. So this idea of agency, or the choice making that I was talking about, is deeply established in NEP. I think most of these ideas, whether it's around critical thinking or inquiry-based and discovery-based learning models, I am guessing may not be new to most of you educators. The emphasis being, how do we make it simple enough and make it available to our learners at all stages, I think is an important part. I think NEP beautifully talks about not having a hard separation between curricular, extracurricular, vocational, or academic streams, so that learning is more holistic, and people don't differentiate what might be seen as more important but only knowledge-centric learning or theoretical learning versus learning that's a lot more centered on doing. NEP talks about internship and work opportunities or vocational learning subjects, and talking about, hey, doing what's right with a view to enabling children to embrace ethical values. Topic-centered, project-based clubs and circles will be encouraged and supported at the levels of school. These are all mentions in NEP, in the chapter 4 of NEP around curriculum and pedagogy, which we deeply resonate with. The chapter 5 talks about continuous professional development for teachers, right? And like enabling teachers to learn new pedagogies like project-based learning and experiential learning. And chapter 9 in higher education talks about how it's important to build 21st century skills in higher education as well, right? To be able to create greater opportunities for individual employment. I think, like I said, I will share this slide deck, and I don't have to read all of these to you, to those of you especially who have already read the NEP. You would have found a lot of resonance between what the NEP talks about and what we've tried to implement in various government schools. Finally, the NEP has a lot of focus on vocational education, and this idea of learning by doing in the real world is something that NEP emphasizes a lot, while also understanding and realizing that vocational education so far has not been aspirational. And in some sense, by focusing on entrepreneurial mindsets, we believe we are able to make learning, as in learning by doing, both aspirational for youth as well as something that enables this doing work with your own hands and the learning that happens from that. Yeah, I think the emphasis on skills, on capacities, and helping students to become successful, innovative, adaptable, and productive human beings is something that NEP talks about quite a bit. Again, collaboration, teamwork, problem solving, and logical reasoning are again areas which our program and our curriculum focus on, and is what the NEP focuses on. Yeah, I think finally, specifically in the grades that we talk about, there is emphasis on doing more real world work, right? Whether it is in terms of carpentry, electric work, metal work, gardening. And in our minds, when we leave the choices to learners, we see students picking up some of these areas, but also areas of food products or areas of art and craft, which require a lot of doing. And I think the idea of being able to use holiday periods or summer vacations for students to pursue these gives them a lot more time to build on their business projects. And capturing all of this in a business project makes this goal oriented, because students then feel a sense of achievement and a sense of accomplishment when they see that, hey, what they are doing leads to outcomes like growth in sales or growth in revenue and profits. Yeah, I think these are all mentions in the NEP that I felt were connected to our work. I wasn't necessarily thinking about using a large part of the slide deck, and I put this together fairly late, based on an input from Professor Saikia. But like I said, I will share all of this with you, all of this that exists in NEP that talks about like real world doing, and how some of this focus on vocational education has happened both globally and what we are trying to do in India, right? That increase the less than 5% of people who are involved in vocational learning to become much, much larger as it is in other countries is important. But at the same time, realizing that it won't happen if it does not become aspirational. And students being entrepreneurial and being able to pursue entrepreneurship projects with autonomy, where they feel they have control over what they do, is one possible pathway to help make this happen at scale. NEP does realize this perception of vocational education being seen as inferior, and we have to overcome that social status hierarchy, and which is what we feel we've been able to accomplish to a large extent, because our programs see over 80% participation by students in the schools that we work in. By the end of March, we would have reached about 29 lakh students across these 10 states that we work in. With this, I'd like to maybe bring my presentation to an end. I think this is my last slide, right? And these talk about some of the important areas of what can happen. I'll be interested in moving into a Q&A setup and actually having a discussion with all of you on the topics and the areas I've touched upon, or take any feedback from you about our work on entrepreneurial mindsets. Let me maybe stop sharing screen. Like I mentioned, these slides will be available for you. But I'm also happy to talk about and maybe share some stories of some of the student journeys that we have seen, which are quite inspiring and powerful. Maybe I'll close with a recent story that I found very inspiring from two girls in rural Andhra Pradesh, where these two girls in 9th grade, when they were asked to come up with a project and design and develop it, they chose to build a snake detector system, an infrared based, and they actually built a working prototype. A snake detector is not something that most of us would think of building as we were to think about ideas. But when you think about rural parts of our country, which are largely agricultural, and where snake bites cause about 75,000 deaths in a year, and you often do not have electricity or illumination available, having a snake detector could prevent loss of life for family and community members of these students. And that leading them to think about this kind of an idea, to me, is an example of what NEP envisions, which is like all students, regardless of urban or rural, regardless of where they might be studying and what kind of capabilities they might have, or what streams might they be part of, feeling that they have the permission to innovate and to solve contextual relevant problems around them. To me, that's a good example of like a beautiful vision coming alive, which helps us see the potential of our youth, that our young people actually have immense potential if only we give them permission and support and mentorship and guidance. They can actually go on to solve large problems, not just around them, but for the country. I think the reason to not talk about that piece or our work with small business entrepreneurs was I thought this was focused a lot more on education.
Yeah.
But we've focused on helping small business entrepreneurs grow. India has a large number of small business entrepreneurs, but often they don't grow. So enabling growth for them through guidance and mentorship, but also one of the larger implementations that we've enabled is to help istri vyaparis, or ironing women and men who जो ठेले पे इस्त्री करते हैं, press करते हैं, right, to help them move from coal or koila to LPG. We made this shift happen for about 6,000 small business entrepreneurs in Bangalore and Chennai. This simple shift of coal to LPG, which I think is a shift that happened in most of our kitchens about 40, 50 years back. helping them make this shift not only makes their lives healthier, but leads to about a 30% income uplift. One, because of reduction in cost, LPG is cheaper than coal, but also because they don't have to spend 40 minutes in the morning and 40 minutes in the afternoon in preparing the coal to the right heat for them to be able to use their tool. So interventions like this, along with providing, so we started an NBFC which offers loans to similar small business entrepreneurs who do not get loans from banks, are measures using which we hope we are able to enable growth for these small business entrepreneurs. So yeah, that's a little bit about what we do within the small business entrepreneurship lending space. We are right now focused on people who are buying electrical commercial vehicles. So think of like a electrical goods auto. So individual owners of those, if they need a loan for purchasing such a vehicle, those are the kind of borrowers who we are serving right now. We've so far as in lent about 1 crore of capital, right, and have had only 5,000 rupees of non-performing assets, which from a performance or as a lender feels like a very, very positive, right? I will touch wood and hope that this ride continues and we are able to keep receiving the money back from borrowers as they continue to grow in their business, which is the reason why we exist. Udyam, as the name suggests, stands for being enterprising or entrepreneurial. And we hope that as more and more of India becomes more entrepreneurial, we will have lesser of the job crisis and more growth and more equitable growth across the country.
Thanks very much, Mekin. So questions, comments, or if you want to share any experiences of your own, feel free to unmute and also provide any feedback on what Mekin is doing. Well, I've become very quiet today.
So I know we're often used to a lecture setup, right? And at least I'm only partially from the education background and new to education. So I appreciate conversations and discussions. I am open to criticism as well as sharp questions that might question some of the hypotheses based on which we have worked. I am also a social entrepreneur whose journey is not easy. So if you have words of encouragement or if you liked what you heard today, please do share. It will help me stay motivated and continue my work.
I'm Dr. B.C. Pal. Uh, you have talked entrepreneurship from class 1 to for lower class up to 12. Now, uh, if you move up college level, what kind of entrepreneurship? Do you have any example where general students, mostly we can see in our college general students, their number is more. Then what do you think about them? What kind of entrepreneurship they can, which area they can go?
Yeah, I think two things. One, our reason to focus on schools was that reason that I mentioned about our dropout rates and enrollment ratios. So only 27% of our youth go to colleges. That is our gross enrollment ratio. So if we want to serve the 73%, we have to go into schools because 73% don't even go to college. That has been the primary reason for us to operate more in schools. That said, we are exploring working in colleges along with ITIs. I do feel that by the time a young person turns 18, 19, there is a lot of fear of failure, fear of what will the world say, and hence openness to trying reduces a lot. While in a school child, their psychology at the age of 15, 16 is a lot more playful and willing to explore and try a lot more. So it's a more malleable space, a time where willingness to experiment is higher. Those are the reasons why we work more with schools. I think with college students as well, there is opportunity to explore doing more doing-led programs. Entrepreneurship, like say swimming, cannot be learned by theory. You can acquire some of the theory, but you have to practice. Some of the globally best programs are by, say, programs like the Babson's College program, which offers a 4-year program in Bachelor's in Entrepreneurship, in which in the first year itself, you register a company and your entire program is built around you building and growing a company. And everything you study in that program is in service of the company. That you are actually learning how to do accounting, how to do marketing, how to manage your finances, how to think about technology and HR. And you're learning all of those and being able to apply it. So those are examples of what have happened both globally and some of the things that are possible here. We as a nonprofit have chosen to focus in schools so far, because we want to serve the 73% also who don't even have access to college. Over the years, we do hope to work in colleges as well with similar programs like Babson's.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paul, for the question. I think so. Ravi Kumar asked about elaborate about the achievements of the participants and feelings about raising the EMC in teachers, especially from non-commerce backgrounds. Thank you for the question. I think we've seen. I explained the one case study of students. Of 2 girl students building a snake detector. We have similarly many stories of students building a wheelchair, an automated wheelchair, and selling it. Students creating, Delhi students who have been troubled by the air pollution have built air filters, and as in one of those teams has now grown, and they sell about 5,000 air filters every month. These are vehicle air filters because older vehicles need to replace air filters, and they often don't do it because of cost reasons. Like this, there are many large and small businesses that have come out. There is actually a bachelor's program in NSUT, which used to be the Delhi College of Engineering, or used to be called the Delhi College of Engineering. NSUT now offers a bachelor's in business administration, which is focused on entrepreneurship. And the Delhi government actually enabled admissions to happen based on business project performance of these students. These students have gone on to create very successful companies. Some have gone and raised money from external investors. Some of these companies now have revenues of over 10 to 20 lakhs. The largest of these companies has crossed revenues of over 1 crore last year. So those are some of the achievements of the participants. I do want to emphasize that our own focus is not just on the few successful entrepreneurs. I feel one of our challenges in India as an education system has been our focus on selection, which enables the few to do really well, and we get happy with the success of the few. I would hope that we can shift our goal from helping select the few and helping them succeed to helping most, if not all of our students really do well and learn. And we become less of a ranking system, which is, hey, here are the top 3 or the top 5, but a lot more of, hey, this is how this whole class is performing and class is doing. So that's the intention with which we have tried to operate. I think to your second question, feelings about EMC and teachers, especially from non-commerce background. I think our emphasis is a lot more on the mindsets, like you saw in the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes are not about accounting or economics or commerce. The learning outcomes are about independence and risk-taking and grit and self-awareness. So we actually find a large number of teachers actually being very excited about this, especially because these are very engaging programs. In a typical class, in a typical Indian class that's teaching a theoretical subject, only 3 to 5 students actively engage in the classroom. They are students who are at the grade level in learning and are able to engage with the teacher as new concepts are shared. in an EMC class, by design, about 80 to 90% of the students participate. Like it requires students, for example, to do group activity and to solve problems in novel ways, which is not something where there is no one right answer, right? So I'll give you an example where, and this might feel very trivial, but I think its divergence from the current Indian education system is important. And let me see if I can pull out, pull out a picture to show that to you. I hope you can see my screen. So this is for a fairly simple and early 9th grade classroom where these girls were asked to build the tallest tower possible. And they weren't given any other instructions or guidance. And you see these girls stacking up books, and so they start with stacking up books, then the school bags go on top. In some of the schools, we see what are called naughty kids turn benches to make them taller. Very soon, the girls realize that their own height is probably the largest resource. And then they try to use their own height to build a tall tower and use this water bottle being balanced on top. And as one girl does it, you can see the other girl also imitating and learning very quickly. The reason, and this might feel fairly small, but to think about our education system, which focuses on a one right answer approach, right? That there is every question has only one right answer, which is probably given in the book. To move away from that to real world problem solving, which has no real right answers, and you can arrive at many answers. And it is the process of how you arrive at it, how you think about it, that's probably more important. So this exercise is then followed by a reflection where the teacher asks the students question, what prompted you to turn the bench, or what prompted you to stand on the desk? Because there are no rules that had been shared about the activity. So those are examples of like a deeper foundational change we are hoping to bring by moving to a more agentic system, is how we have done our work. Dr. Navu Warak has a cryptic question of, do you think Indian knowledge system would lead to skill creation? I'm not sure, sir, what you mean by Indian knowledge system. I think I feel like there was a lot of emphasis on apprenticeship and on learning by doing in our uh, systems in the past. But I feel we have to stay contextual and think about, hey, what is relevant today, and from in that absorb what we already had and have probably given up on, but also learn globally about best practices that are happening in the world, and build systems that might serve India of today and India of tomorrow.
Mekin, if I can ask a simple question, which is that you're doing absolutely fantastic now, spread across more than 10 states and, lakhs of children. But what are the challenges you faced when you started off? I'm just curious in terms of implementing it.
I think a bunch of challenges. Some of the challenges which are common to everything that is new, right? That there are challenges around why should we do this? What are the results, etc. So teachers and principals thinking about or feeling like, hey, is there merit to doing it? What will they learn? I think also teachers feeling like entrepreneurship is not something, or entrepreneurial mindsets are not something that they can teach, that they have not been equipped to be able to deliver these kind of programs. A lot of their training has been focused on knowledge-centric pieces and not skill and mindset-centric pieces. So what does it take for teachers to facilitate these programs has been another area where capacity building and learning has been required. And that does come with its own set of challenges. I think also to keep in mind factors of student safety, which like as students step out of the safe space of schools and homes is an important factor, which is why like we generally push for this to happen in groups, and for students to do all of this in groups has been an important challenge. It's interesting because learning as we know, learning happens using the zone of proximal development, ZPD, where you have to get out of your comfort zone. And the idea of getting out of your comfort zone requires you to get out of comfort spaces of schools. And that does pose its own set of challenges. Sometimes parents are not ready to give permission, especially to girl children, to do some of these activities. So those are examples of some of the challenges, Dr. Saikia, that we faced in our early days, and we continue to face at some scale. The challenges have reduced as parents and teachers and others see the kind of things young people are able to do. I think their business projects give a lot of joy in terms of what they are able to create, and it's very unexpected, because otherwise we don't give space and time to our young people to be able to create these things.
The other question to sort of just add to that was, so once, a student wants to become an entrepreneur, wants to start off something, what are the procedures involved? They will have to register what the company they set up or the firm they set up under the Shops Act or something, or do they just go on without any formal thing? Or
Majority of entrepreneurs in India today continue to be informal. They don't necessarily register, and students can also do the same. We do encourage students that once they are pursuing entrepreneurship seriously, to then register their company. It allows them to then raise institutional finance from banks or from other lenders like Udyam Financial Services. It also allows them to raise equity capital from funders, and gives their customers more trust. But these are all optional in some sense, because most of India's entrepreneurs continue to be informal. So it's not something that is required by law or by work, but it is something that we encourage, that if you start formal, your chances of building a growth business are a lot higher. But at the same time, we wouldn't recommend you getting lost in the compliances while not even thinking or having time to do the real business activity.
And while you're trying to spread this out across different states, has language or culture been a challenge in any way, or?
So we contextualize our program significantly. So in all of these states, it happens in the local language. We also bring in examples from local stories, right? So for those of you who might be in Delhi, uh, we talk about inspiring stories of entrepreneurial people. So Mr. E. Sridharan, for example, who's the metro man of India, who made the Delhi metro possible. Or there is this guy, entrepreneur called Bittu Tikkiwala, who moved to Delhi with nothing and then started selling tikkis and now has 400 stores, right? Which I think a lot of people may have heard of if they are in Delhi. Are examples which students can immediately connect with and resonate, because they know those stories fairly closely. So those are things we try to do. Uttarakhand, for example, the teachers get very motivated by the idea that this is a program that can help reduce migration, because otherwise young people in Uttarakhand, after they finish school, are left with very little option, because there are very few job prospects, and they move to cities like Delhi to try and find a job, and often do not necessarily have a good success in finding jobs or leading a good life. So those are all contextual things we are able to bring in as we co-develop the program with the state. We want the state to have the ownership of this, so that the state can continue this even without us. Hence, even the names of these programs are coined by the state. In Uttarakhand, it's called Kaushalam. In Andhra Pradesh, it's called Ankuram. In Delhi, it's called EMC. Telangana calls it Ankuram. Andhra Pradesh calls it EMDP. Madhya Pradesh calls it School Business, Social and Business Idea Competition. So I think each of the state comes up with different names that suits them. And we don't necessarily care about our name or these being consistent. We only care about students having these experiences and learnings.
Thanks very much, Mekin. So any questions or comments? I was asked, I shouldn't be asking all the questions. What happened to the participants?
And uh, no,
Okay. Any other comments? Anything you would like to share?
no, I feel like I would love feedback. So
Hmm.
if you liked what you heard, then please say a few words on chat. If you think that, uh, and even if you didn't, maybe share why you think this might be challenging or an incorrect path to follow. So honest feedback can help us improve and can help us do better. My own reflections have been that I think building systems that trust our students uh, can be very powerful. Like I have been very pleasantly surprised by the potential of young people, right, and what they are able to create at a young age. So I would encourage all of you to operate with more trust in your students, and then challenge them and see what they are able to do. Open up possibilities for them, and then if they get stuck, maybe provide them with some support. Um, I feel that way we can slowly start to think about our population as an asset rather than thinking about our population as a liability. It's our largest resource. We are the most populous country in the world. And if our population starts to create more and more value, I feel like our path to becoming a developed country can be a lot more inclusive versus only the top 1%, 2% startup and big corporates earning all the money and keeping all the money, and hence leading to very inequitable growth.
Good evening, sir. This is Anita Sule from Pune. In our college, recently we have started incubation cell, and under that we have planning to start startups for the entrepreneurs, like students from the arts, science, and commerce group. But the thing is like that, sir. For commerce, it is very difficult for me how to give the ideas regarding the startup related to the commerce, sir. That is the big problem in front of me, sir.
I think we often get stuck with this idea, this thing about that doing a startup is a lot about the idea. In my own experience, both at Flipkart or looking at other entrepreneurs or as an angel investor, I have realized that uh, actually good ideas come only after you start doing things. Just to give you examples, Bill Gates' first idea when he started Microsoft was selling programming languages. But very soon he realized there was no market for programming languages and quickly decided that no, he wanted to sell operating systems instead. But had somebody rejected Bill Gates on the basis of the idea, he would not have ever gotten started. I feel I feel just getting started, and over a period of time, students will discover what they could do and change their ideas and learn from the ground. I think a lot of learning from the ground is possible only when they start doing. If the doing doesn't happen, this might actually be very hard. So my encouragement is our education system is very prone to selecting, hey, what are good ideas? What are innovative ideas? My push remains that it's okay. Even if you want to sell watermelon, you should sell watermelon. It's okay. And you will find innovative ways of selling that watermelon. I have experienced that myself. So I would encourage that whatever is the commerce idea that students come up with, right? I think allowing them to, whether it's a simple trade idea, right, selling something which is not available in a locality or not easily available, I think are all examples of being able to do ideas that might be very simple to do and not putting a premium on innovativeness of the idea or what is a good idea or what is a right idea. I personally believe there are no bad ideas. There might be bad context that an idea may not fit at a certain time and a certain place, but you can always improve on it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pranti, for the encouraging words. Actually, Dr. Navu, I have very little experience with disabilities, and we did try and run programs for the blind and had some very interesting realizations and experiences. I don't think that's a space we have done enough work on for me to comment on it. So I will resist from sharing any comments on that. but it's been encouraging. Thank you so much for the kind words and for the questions. I hope a lot of you found the session to be insightful and new, I hope. And I hope there are learnings that you can take away and possibly implement in both your own lives, but also in your classrooms and spaces where you have opportunity to enable young people.
Yes, sir, definitely, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Anita.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a great weekend and all the very best, and lovely to have you all with us for this week. Okay,
Thank
bye.
you, sir.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye.
sir. Thank
You're
you, sir.
welcome.
Bye.